Welcome back to the I Can Do Anything podcast. My name is Colin. There were 8 games on in the NBA last night. I think I got to about 3 of them. I watched 4 different games, but definitely didn't see 4 entire games. The first game that I watched was the Pistons and the Celtics game. It was a really good game. It was close throughout. Final score was 108 to 105 Celtics. Blake Griffin made a couple of, just one, I guess, really costly turnover at the end. I don't know that it was entirely his fault. I believe that pass was going to Ish Smith. It looked like he maybe just led him a little too far, or was just kind of on different pages about whether or not he was gonna. I think Blake Griffin thought that he was gonna keep running, and Ish Smith thought that he was gonna catch it and stop. Although he needed to, I don't know. Either way, it was just poor communication and a pretty crucial turnover down the stretch. Blake Griffin finished with 24 points on 8 of 17 shooting, 47% from the field. I would say is pretty good for the most part. 0 of 4 from 3, though. 8 of 8 from the free throw line, 15 rebounds, 3 assists, and 5 turnovers. 5 turnovers is way too many. He handles the ball a good majority of the time, but still 5 turnovers is just too many turnovers for one player in general. Stanley Johnson also had 6 turnovers. Blake Griffin's plus-minus was negative 15. Reggie Jackson's was negative 10, but the other 3 starters were positive. They had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys positive and 1, 2, 3, 4 negative. So just going off of that, you would think that they may have won the game, but the points differential, the negatives were far outweighed the positives, including Blake Griffin and Reggie Jackson with negative 13 and 10. On the Boston side of the ball, Jason Tatum had 16, didn't shoot the ball well, 33% from the field, 25% from 3. He was plus 10 though, but overall kind of an average night. Kyrie Irving was clearly the best player on the floor last night with 31 points on 10 of 16 shooting, 62.5% from the field. I think he hit like 2 or 3 threes in a row, was 4 of 7 from three-point range, 57.1%, 7 of 8 from the free throw line, 5 assists, 2 turnovers is pretty good, but he was definitely back to playing really, really well. You know, he was growing his hair out over the summer and shaved his head before last night and played really well. So maybe Kyrie Irving just needs to have shorter hair. Okay, I didn't really draw too much from the game. I didn't actually even expect it to be a 3-point game. The Pistons right now are close to the top in the East. In the East, they are currently 4th at 4-2, and Boston is 3rd at 5-2. Those are after last night's results. But I don't project the Pistons finishing 4th. I think they finish maybe closer to 6th or 7th. I think Indiana will jump up above them by the time the season's over. I think Philadelphia will eventually jump up above them by the time the season's over. I think Milwaukee aren't gonna stay undefeated, but I don't think that they finish probably in the top 3. The other game from last night, the 76ers and the Raptors, I think the final score was 129 to 112, although it got really close I think it got within 6 with like 3 minutes to go. But before that was a kind of a blowout. The Raptors were up 20 at one point, and then 76ers played pretty well, made some shots down the stretch to cut it down to 6, and may have even been 4 at one point, and then Kawhi Leonard got a steal, passed it up floor to Siakam, and he finished with a foul at the basket, and that kind of shifted the momentum back, and then they kind of ballooned it out to what was about a 15-point victory. But Siakam played really well for the Raptors last night, 15 points and a career-high 15 rebounds. I think that the way that game ended was kind of indicative of, again, kind of like the 76ers and the Celtics game on opening night of the NBA season. I thought that point differential was kind of the separation between 1 and 2 in the East, but now having seen the Raptors play against the Sixers, and again, it's really early still, but these games are going to be important come April, because it's going to be a tight race between, I would say, probably 2 and 6 or 2 and 5, maybe even 1 and 5. Last year it was really close in both conferences come April, and the last 2 weeks of the regular season were actually really intriguing, especially in the West. But after seeing the Raptors beat the Sixers last night, I sort of shift now kind of to thinking that maybe the Raptors and the Celtics are 1 and 2, give or take, in either order, and the 76ers are probably third. Again, I don't think, unless Antetokounmpo has really taken a huge stride, which I don't think by the end of the season, I don't think that he will be making quite the impact that he is currently making over the first 7 games. I just don't think that it's all that sustainable over 82 games, and he looks really, really fresh from over the summer, but at some point everybody hits kind of a lull, especially in like January, sometimes even in February. But I think those are probably the top 3 teams, the Raptors, Celtics, and the 76ers, with maybe Milwaukee finishing 4th, or even the Pacers in 4th. Speaking of Eastern Conference teams, last night the Cavs got their first win in Larry Drew's first head coaching job. Now, so they fired Ty Lue, and then the very next game they win, which basically means that Dan Gilbert is a genius. He probably thought so highly of himself after they won last night. He woke up this morning like, wow, what a great decision that I made. And the thing is that it's really not like a horrible decision necessarily, because they're going to be bad regardless of who their coach is. But I just think for business, it's really stupid to have to pay Ty Lue. And then now Larry Drew's arguing, or not arguing, but I guess he's questioning why his contract hasn't been restructured, because he's still making the same money as the assistant coach when now he's the interim head coach. And it just kind of again shows that Dan Gilbert is kind of just a jackass, that, you fire your coach, and because you're still going to have to pay him, you don't want to adjust the salary of your assistant coach who you've got running interim head coach. It seems like just simple business 101, that if you give somebody a promotion, even as an interim promotion, you have to adjust their salary. And you'd think that he's just cheap, and most people who have managed money really well and who have made a shit ton of money for themselves, like Dan Gilbert has, are generally really, really frugal. But I just think he probably woke up this morning feeling really great about his decision, and over the long haul of this season and within the next couple years or so, it's not going to really matter, because the Cavs won't be competitive at all in the NBA. But I just thought it was kind of funny that he makes the firing and then they win the next game after going 0-6. It just kind of speaks to how the NBA, and I guess culture in general, is just very reactionary these days. You know who he should hire? If Dan Gilbert really wants to, I guess, try to jump out of LeBron's shadow, he should hire, what's his name? The Louisville coach, Rick Pitino. He should hire Rick Pitino as the new head coach. I just got a notification that said that Avery Johnson is a possible Cavs new head coach. He's currently the Alabama coach, and thought of an article that I saw earlier in the week that Rick Pitino wants to now coach in the NBA. There's a head coaching spot open in Cleveland. Dan Gilbert, if you're listening, hire Rick Pitino. It's a great PR move, because your season's shit anyways. All right. Trailblazers and the Rockets was not really all that great of a game. I tuned in and watched like the end of the third quarter, and I don't know. I mean, Harden's out. Chris Paul is back, and I really love Chris Paul, even though he is pretty widely hated throughout the NBA, and I think by a lot of fans. I think Chris Paul is one of the best two-way players in the NBA right now still, just because I think he's such a dog defensively. He may be deteriorating slightly. Some would probably argue a lot offensively, but I still really like I don't really encourage fighting in general, but I thought it's interesting at least that him and Rondo are fighting each other. Those are two of the very few guys in the NBA that would probably still actually throw punches. They both have small man syndrome, kind of. But Chris Paul is interesting to watch on the Rockets. But other than that, not all that interesting. He only had 17 points in 37 minutes. Eric Gordon had 12 points. Capella 14. PJ Tucker 8. Carmelo 8 points. Carmelo had 8 points in 31 minutes on 2 of 12, 16% from the field, 0 of 2 from 3, 4 rebounds, 1 turnover, -17. All of their starters were in the negative teens. Carmelo -17, -11, -15, -16, -18. And on the other side, Portland, all of their starters, +20, +20, +25, +15, +20. Damian Lillard had 22. Nurkic had 22. CJ McCollum had 19. Stauskas continues to play well off the bench, had 10 points. Only shot the ball 30% from the field, but 2 of 6 from 3, and that's where they need him really to stretch the floor out, even if he's missing shots, just to open up the lane for Lillard and McCollum's inside games and their driving game. McCollum played well, though. Shot the ball 53% from the field, 3 of 6 from 3. That's really all. There's not a whole lot to talk about. I think that, especially the way that the season has started for the Rockets, who are now 1-5, and the way that the season has started for Portland, I think that probably a lot of people would have seen that coming. I didn't watch Wizards and Grizzlies. I watched a little bit of the OKC Thunder and the LA Clippers. Really, the only thing interesting is the egos going back and forth of Russell Westbrook and Avery Bradley. But other than that, not all that intriguing of a game. Gallinari played well, 27 points, 3 of 4 from 3, 75%. But a lot of the Clippers were negative. OKC, that game was out of reach for a while, and then OKC brought it relatively close from what I remember. But then OKC kind of pulled away at the end. Paul George had 32 points, 9 of 18 from the field, 3 of 5 from 3, 12 rebounds. Really solid overall night for Paul George. He was plus 21. Steven Adams played well, plus 25. Wow, Terrence Ferguson, plus 34. Russell Westbrook, plus 18, 32 points on... Shot the ball pretty well, 13 of 25% from the field. That's good. 1 of 3 from 3. Not too many three-point attempts, which is a good thing for him. 8 assists, 3 turnovers. So I would say probably Russell Westbrook's best game of the season thus far, and a pretty big win over a team that's going to be a bottom feeder in the West, though. But still, nonetheless, you got to go in and play the game and win it. There are a number of games tonight that I think kind of echo that sentiment. The Nuggets play the Bulls, which is a good one for the most part. I've liked watching the Bulls so far this season. The Pacers and the Knicks are on tonight on ESPN, so I'm going to watch that one just to watch the Pacers. And I haven't seen the young Knicks play yet this season either, so that can get 2 birds stoned at once. Plus, it's on national television, so the Pacers regional game isn't blocked out for me. Pistons Nets is pretty unwatchable for the most part. Jazz Timberwolves will be a good one. That's exciting, although Teague and Butler are both out. The Jimmy Butler thing continues to get more and more interesting. I got a notification on my phone today from Bleacher Report that said Jimmy Butler will be sitting out tonight because Jimmy Butler could be sitting out tonight in next step of 6-week process to get out of Minnesota may lead to lengthy absence. And that is from NBA News on Bleacher Report. It's an interesting move, I guess, sort of. So you sit out the preseason and a lot of practices leading up to the regular season. You come back and berate your whole team, your coach, all the management and front office people, and then you play pretty well so far throughout the season. Through 7 games, the Timberwolves are 3-4, which I think is about right for their team. Jimmy Butler's averaging 22 points a game right now, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. I would say that's, again, pretty much right on par with right about where he should be at. Again, I don't think that Jimmy Butler, he's kind of one of these Walmart superstars. I don't know that he's got the body and I guess he's got the body for it, but I just don't know if he's got the overall skill to be a legitimate superstar. I think he'll get legitimate superstar money just because a lot of guys are in his next contract, although I don't know when that comes. But another move to, try to go play somewhere and be the man on his own, which I think is a really stupid decision. I don't know why you wouldn't pair up with a guy like LeBron. It's the stigma behind going to play with another star player, I think, is still alive and well, even though star players have been playing together since the invention of the NBA, really. I mean, even in the ABA, in some cases, I guess the ABA is kind of a bad example because it just didn't last very long. But ever since the NBA has been what it's been, star players have been playing together and winning together. It's only been since LeBron's major shifts that now it's starting to be looked at as like a millennial thing to do because all these guys are friends now, but really that's like what's been happening for the last 40 years. It's just in the past it was the GMs and front office people making the moves, and now it's more of players doing it. But I think Jimmy Butler will probably go try to be the man somewhere on his own, kind of like Blake Griffin. He'll take a shit ton of shots. He'll win some games. He'll have some really incredible performances, but in the West, his team probably won't make the playoffs or will go out in the first round of the playoffs. And in the East, his team, could be a 6th seed and win a playoff series, but probably not go any further than that once they play a complete team like Boston or even like the 76ers, even though the 76ers, again, are still really young, but play a complete team like Toronto with, savvy older guys and Kyle Lowry and Kawhi Leonard. And I don't know. I mean, it's a smart move if you want to leave, if you're Jimmy Butler, to sit out games and kind of force the hand like, hey, I'm going to be here and not play. Or you could get rid of me and get some people in return and some draft picks in return or whatever the case may be. But it'll be interesting to see how many games he does in fact sit out. I'm also pretty excited about the Pelicans and the Golden State Warriors game. That's Anthony Davis will be playing tonight against the Warriors, which is really exciting. I think this is going to be a really interesting matchup. I want to say that this was a first-round matchup last year. I think it was, and the Pelicans beat somebody in the first round and then played the Warriors. But this is a really good matchup, and then the Lakers and the Mavericks play tonight. I think a really important game for the Lakers. I talk about these early season games against other Western or teams in the same conference. I guess it doesn't matter the conference. You got to you have to win the obvious ones. And the Lakers, although the Mavericks are going to be better than they were last year, the Mavericks should end the season in the bottom half of the West and probably won't make the playoffs still. But the Lakers, if they want to be a playoff team, have got to beat the Mavericks early on. It's in LA. You have to win a home game early against a bottom tier Western Conference team. And both teams are 2-5, but I think this is a really important one early on. And then the Spurs and the Suns play. I don't think that it really will be a close game. After watching the Spurs the night before play in overtime and DeMar DeRozan be really good, and then watching Kawhi Leonard on the Raptors last night, it's interesting the swap that those two teams made. I've talked pretty much at pretty good length about those two guys kind of just swapping places and they're very similar guys and have a very similar game. And it's almost like it's early on, and this is obviously not quantifiable, but like it seems like Kawhi may be a better fit on this current Raptors team than DeRozan was, and they seem like they've got a shot to, again, now with LeBron out of the East, I still don't think that Kawhi and Kyle Lowry and the Raptors would beat LeBron and who on the Cavs or whatever from last year's team. I still don't think that they probably beat LeBron in the East, but now that the East is wide open, it'll certainly look like if the Raptors win the East, it'll certainly look like he was better in Toronto than DeRozan was, and DeRozan looks really great for the Spurs, and just because of the turmoil and everything that Kawhi kind of started uncharacteristically, seemingly, that maybe DeRozan will be better for them. I mean, he's got to be, because Leonard didn't play last year damn near at all, if any games. I still haven't looked that up from yesterday, but I'm excited about the games ahead. I closed on my house today. I can't wait to finally move in 10 days. I don't really have a whole bunch today to talk about. I'm excited about tonight's games, and because I can do anything, I think I'm logging out early.